Is your wife refusing to forgive you? Is she filled with anger and resentment anytime you try and tell her your side of the story? My name's Luke Finn, and I'm the founder of the ARC system, where we help dads transform a marriage in crisis into a new unbreakable marriage. And today, I'm joined by our ARC legends to help you navigate the difficulties in your marriage. ARC legends assemble. How are all you beautiful motherfuckers doing?
Amazing. Oh, well.
Hello. Yes, love it, love it. All right, guys, our question today is from Nicholas from the US, where he says, my wife refuses to forgive me. What can I do? Now, let me give you guys a little bit more context on this. I know Nicholas, he's in our ARC system free Facebook group. To give you guys a little bit more context on this, his wife's refusing to forgive him. He hasn't cheated. They've just grown apart and she's full of resentment. So let's start off this session by helping Nicholas, and maybe you guys can share yourself. Who from you experienced the same thing, where your wife was refusing to forgive you? All right, go for it, Cowboy. So, yeah, tell us a little bit about that and how it affected you.
It kind of started off really slow at first, just little things here and there, and then it turned into full blown, like, just nothing that I did was right, nothing I said was right. Everything was fought, everything was argued, everything. Yeah, it just didn't matter. And I got so confused, just so bummed out by the whole thing. I didn't know really what was going on, and I really didn't know how to carry myself through the day. Like my whole personality became about my wife and my growing family at the time, whatever. And this is something that lasted for a long time, lasted for years at that. And eventually I just started doing, like I would do something where I tried to do everything that she said she liked, or that she wanted. And the tensions would ease for a week or two, a few days, whatever. And then we'd be right back at square one, like just arguing all the time. And and it seemed like it was worse than it was before. And then I tried just stepping away from it, just cutting it all off, and not communicating at all. Which,
sorry, just cutting what off? Just to be clear, not your cock, right?
No, of course not. No, just cutting off all communication to it, like just completely shutting it off, and like, you know what, you deal with it. Like, that's your problem, not mine. And that went over about as well as a fart in church. Yeah. And so there's really,
I'm gonna have to try, or went down like a shit sandwich.
Pretty much. However you want to look at it.
Yeah.
I got a couple of
those
phrases.
How was it affecting you, Cowboy? Like that you were trying your best, you're being like all men, trying to figure out what is it she needs fixed and what is it that needs to change in order for her to forgive you. You were doing it and it would get a little bit better, and then it would come back and be worse. How was that like affecting you mentally and emotionally?
No, it was tearing me apart. Like I got to a point, like, so many different times, like, why the fuck am I even doing this? Why the fuck am I even trying? Like, why am I busting my ass to work to provide this life? Like, why am I doing anything? Why am I even still here? And my kids, and I started thinking about my kids. Like, they'll be better off without us together, and me happy than like this. I mean, it's not what I wanted. I didn't want to be separated from my family, but it started becoming a very real like thought.
A way out, right? And it's totally normal when we try all the strategies and use all the tools that we have available to us, and we don't get the result we're looking for, of course, and we look for some way out of that pain. And that makes a lot of sense that you were then even considering leaving your marriage. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, generated a lot of resentment in my own self, like, for everything.
Yeah. Okay. What about you, Falcon? Do you want to share a little bit from your side? So how was it for you? So when your wife was refusing to forgive you, and what were you looking to be forgiven for?
Yeah, similar to Cowboy's story, you know. I felt like I was constantly over explaining, um, apologizing again and again and again, trying to prove that I changed, being a show pony.
Hmm.
Um, and it was draining, like made me feel less worthy. It kept me stuck in this like loop of shame, instead of actually healing. And then her like refusal to like accept my apologies or forgiveness actually became a weapon. Like I said, it was a loop, and it just kept me there. So um, yeah, that's
What,
really how I
what were you
felt.
what were you looking for? If you feel comfortable sharing that with everybody, what were you looking for forgiveness on? Is there a particular was it a particular behavior, or what was it for you that you were looking for to get forgiveness on?
Well, yeah, it was, so I would take um I would take ownership for my mistakes, of all the stuff that she would say I
Can you
was
give us an
doing wrong.
example? Yeah, what would be one of those things, for example?
You stop caring about me,
Okay,
right?
that's a
And
fucking tough one when you hear
yeah,
that, right? That's going to make your heart bleed.
yeah, and so I
Yeah.
went into this whole loop of like, no, I still care about you. Over explaining, right? I'm sorry that I made you feel that way again and again and again and again. And I would prove it, right? Oh, I care about you. Let's go do what you want to do. Let's go do, you know, kind of how Cowboy was explaining. You lost yourself trying to please her. So yeah, that's kind of how I felt. And then when it it became a cycle and it became worse and worse, like a weapon every time it happened.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a powerful insight, man. Thank you for sharing that. What about yourself, Optimus? So, did you have the same experience, and what were you looking to get forgiveness
I
for?
think for me, it was more the closure with regards to the forgiveness aspect of it. When the whole situation started, it was she was very vague in the fact of what my past behaviors patterns was that she didn't want to divulge to me, and it kind of seemed very hard for me to grasp, almost like trying to solve something without getting that constructive criticism. I mean, how can you fix something if you don't even know what you're trying to fix? And always, like everyone else saying, trying to put the extra energy into the relationship, trying to figure out and be that person that she wants you to be, is the hard part of the whole situation. I mean, there was probably a solid week where I don't even think I had 2 bites of food. So it definitely hurt going through that whole process in the beginning.
I get that. It's a difficult one for sure. Now, what do you guys think are some of the pitfalls? So, I think Falcon, you already covered one there about you get into this cycle of when she's refusing to forgive you, that you try and appease her over and over and again, and it gets weaponized. That's definitely a pitfall. What else are some of the other pitfalls that come to your top of your mind when you think about things you should avoid when your wife is refusing to forgive you?
Begging for forgiveness, it really creates like this imbalance, and it strips away from your self-respect. Um, Also trying to fix her emotions, because that's on her, not on
Right.
you. But we go into this like, I mean, we're men, right? So
You
automatically
want to
we go
fix?
into
Yeah.
this fix it mode. And then you go into over apologizing, and it becomes performative, it becomes it keeps you trapped in that guilt, in that need once again to fix her. And letting her define your worth. Um,
Wow.
it's her forgiveness shouldn't be your peace. It can't be your peace.
Right on, Falcon. And what you're talking about there is the dynamic of victim and persecutor. So as in you're the bad guy and she's the victim. And by you're feeding into that with all the different things you talked about there. Really great insight. Optimus, what about from your side? What do you think are things that you, looking back, that you kind of wish you would, or if you were, like, God forbid, to face it a second time, what would you avoid?
Chasing. There's one quote that specifically comes to mind, which is, when you get bit by the snake, why is it that we try and chase after the snake to figure out why they bit us instead of trying to heal the wound of the snake bite? I think we need to actually heal what internally and do that self reflection and, you know, look inside of ourselves first before we can actually try to figure out the problem. I mean, you're chasing something, you have no idea what it's all about or the reasoning behind it. You gotta, you know, pull back and self-reflect on all the situations that you see in your mind to help clear yourself.
Awesome. Wonderful. Okay. Thanks for sharing. Cowboy, what about from your side? What, if you're looking back on it, what do you wish you didn't do? So we just to recap, we've got, so don't chase, don't be trying to fix your emotions. So Falcon hit on so many there. No, and they're amazing. Unfortunately, my brain is not able to recall all of them. They were so good. What about from your side, Cowboy?
Yeah, sacrificing your own sense of self. I fell into this thing where even all the way down to basic care, like going to the doctor. I would cancel appointments. I would just not set appointments for, there's a good span of several years where I just never went to the doctor for anything because it would become a problem because I would spend that time elsewhere, like doing what I wanted to do, whatever. So just sacrificing even your basic care.
Gotcha.
All the way up through your sense of self. Like I had no hobbies that I could really maintain, nothing.
Okay. All right, guys. Now you are all in the ARC system, so we all practice radical, so ownership, radical self-ownership, and taking full responsibility. What do you think, though? There is also another side to that. Generally, taking ownership for your side of things is very empowering in life, right? Really, there's no victims in our group. We're doing the best. We're getting 1% better every single day. But there is a dark side without the healing. If you're not doing the healing work and you're just like, I'm taking sole responsibility for everything in the marriage, for all the mistakes, for where it's at today. What do you guys see as the danger there for somebody that is just taking full responsibility, just accepting everything the wife is saying and feeling a lot of shame and blame and like that? It's really all on them. Let's talk a little bit about that. Let's start off with Optimus on this one. What do you feel like is the danger if you're taking full responsibility for everything that happened in the marriage?
Definitely will hurt your peace for sure. And taking on all that is a huge burden, which,
like, peace as in PEAC, or a peace as in your peace?
A little bit of both.
I'm sorry. Guys, I can't help myself today. You're making it too easy.
Rocking out.
Exactly.
Yeah, the peace, the whole downward spiral, the burdens that you don't need to carry all of it. It's not going to serve yourself at all. And it's not going to, like, you're going to get the energy that you put out. So if you're putting out dark energy, you're going to get the same back. So you need to have that whole positive mindset change and, you know, view everything differently to help yourself get better and grow and heal.
Wonderful. Thank you. What about yourself then, Cowboy? What would you say is the danger when you're taking full responsibility and taking everything on your shoulders?
You run the risk of just becoming an empty shell.
An empty what?
Shell.
Shell. Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm.
You have this human being that is whatever it means to you, to spiritual or whatever you're supposed to have this connection to things, and then you just You become a shell. There's nothing there. Essentially just a robot or a statue existing in space and time.
Yeah, it's pretty dark. But it's the truth. It's the truth. We see a lot of guys. So some of the guys, when they're coming into the program, are having to make a big shift out, and it does start with healing. So that makes sense. Falcon, what about you, man? What do you see is the danger of when you're taking full responsibility for everything in the marriage?
Well, number one, you reinforce that her narrative that you are the problem, and it actually blocks you from healing. Because you start hearing the stories how bad you were, and you actually start believing it, and then you lose your boundaries, right? You start playing the martyr, like, oh yeah, I did this wrong, it was all my fault, and you absorb um all the blame, right? Things that aren't yours. And the marriage, there's two sides, and if you aren't together on it, like, I mean, I'm sure, you know in everybody's marriage, right? We all have, we all play our role, and when you're taking everything, then it leaves her without anything. And so it's, you gotta really do the healing first.
Right. That's a great segue into then giving our 3 steps to deal with this for Nicholas. So, guys, let's get into this. So, the first step is exactly what Falcon hit on here. If your wife is refusing to forgive you, it all starts with forgiving yourself. Let's talk a little bit about that. How important has that been for you guys? Because obviously, all of you coming into the ARC system, there's a lot of, you took responsibility for your side of the street. But how important has forgiving yourself first before looking for your wife for forgiveness? How important has that been? So let's start off with you, Optimus.
Ooh, it's huge. It
We're talking
definitely
about
helps you.
we're talking about the forgiveness again, not something else. Why do you always have to bring it back to your piece?
Sorry.
What are you sitting on?
Yeah,
It's cute.
there's no batteries. Yeah,
You got to
the
forgive
weight.
yourself for that.
It's all about letting go of that weight. Once you let go of that weight, it's uplifting. That's all I can say. I think it's huge when you actually can forgive yourself, because I know when we look for the forgiveness from the other person, it's not what is meant for us. Forgiveness is for ourselves. Once you can forgive yourself, everything else becomes more clear.
Wonderful. Falcon, what about you, man? How important
Yeah,
has forgiving yourself been?
it's
You?
yeah, you really gotta pull yourself together and heal, forgive yourself, um without punishing yourself. That's a big one for me, because you go into this spiral of trying to absorb everything, and it's not all on you, and once you start doing that, you start showing up with integrity, and it's just not to win her back, but to actually rebuild yourself. And that's when you start, like, letting go of the outcome, and you're fully present at the moment. That's when you realize, like, you let go of having a desired outcome, and trying to push, for anything. And you let faith, kind of into your world, in a
Yeah.
sense.
Wonderful. That's beautiful. Cowboy, what about you, man? How important has forgiving yourself been? Yeah, I mean, you've been on a big healing journey in the ARC system.
The what was I just thinking of? So there's a reason why that quote exists, or that phrase exists, about you can't love someone else without first loving yourself. So if you're at this point, you need to forgive yourself, and that's exactly what this is for. That's exactly where this is coming from, because you can't do anything about your situation until you can find that love and acceptance for yourself. And it starts within you. Um, there's just so much power to be had in that. And in my own journey, I had to, basically what happened was I brought myself back to what I was before I even knew my wife. And then I had to integrate that with what I am now as a husband and a father.
Right. I think a big part of this is with forgiving yourself. It's about being stuck in the past. You have a choice. You can stay in the past and keep beating yourself up about shit that you can't change, or you can accept it happened, work on getting better. And that's the thing with all of you guys. You all enrolled in a program to help you move past this, to heal, to create that new unbreakable marriage. Now, if you guys watching this, our discussion today, are finding this valuable and this is resonating with you, I also want to invite you to begin your healing journey and forgive yourself by enrolling in our free ARC masterclass. You can find the link down below. We look forward to seeing you inside. Now, back to our discussion, guys, then. So forgiving is really, really important. Let's talk about the next step. Learn from the mistakes, right? And they go hand in hand, right? So if you're going to keep repeating the mistakes, it's kind of hard to forgive yourself because you're just stuck in that loop. So how important has it been for you guys to learn from the mistakes of the past and in the healing process to know like that will never happen again? No matter what relationship you're in, it's never going to happen again. How important has that been for you on your healing journey? Let's start off with you, Optimus.
Oh, it's good to be self-aware, to know patterns, behaviors, and sometimes we don't even know any of that until we actually dig deep, just like some of the checkpoints we have to do in our workbooks and stuff. And some of those questions, even though they're hard to answer, it's definitely going to give you that clarity, that chance to grow, to know better, to not get that pattern going back again. It's like that dance you do and you keep tripping over your feet. You're never going to get that right. So learning from your mistakes is huge, because obviously we want to be the man in the marriage to lead. So you got to know what you're doing to do right, to get that dance going properly, to tango.
Nice. Okay, Cowboy, what about you? How important has been learning from the mistakes in your marriage?
You know, Optimus already kind of touched on it, being self-aware, and having that self-awareness has been able to help me in real time categorize whether it's something that I need to take ownership and accountability for, or if it's something that she needs to take ownership and accountability for. And you can set a boundary in real time or reaffirm a boundary in real time, like as things are unfolding, rather than playing catch up and chasing and trying to figure out what it is that you need to fix and what it is that you need to do. And then by that point, it's already too late because you're already taking ownership and accountability for everything. So it's helped me keep from doing exactly that. And
So
it's
chasing after her and then trying to
mhm,
appease her. So what you're saying is the importance of being able to, again, identify, is this my shit or is it her shit, right? In real
exactly.
time. And is an apology required here, or is this her own stuff? And I just need to give her space and then address it at a later point.
Exactly.
Right? Gotcha. Falcon, what about from your side, man?
Yeah, I mean, there's not much to add. These two guys hit everything on the dot. Yeah, I mean, learning from your mistakes, keeping yourself out of that same loop and cycle. you know, and then setting the boundaries in real time. That's what it's about.
Look at you guys. Look at you guys. You're already leading us right into the third step here for Nicholas. Yes, setting clear boundaries. I think this is the most, no, actually it's not. Forgiving yourself, I think, is the most important one. But this one is a really close second, setting clear boundaries. Because if we don't do that, we're constantly taking on blame when we have no fault, and we're perpetuating that dynamic in the relationship. So let's talk a little bit about that, guys. I know in the ARC system currently we're doing a lot of work on setting clear boundaries because it's such an important topic. What about for you guys? So how do you see setting clear boundaries in regards to this forgiveness, what you can do towards forgiveness in your wife? How important is setting clear boundaries? Let's start off with you on this one, Falcon.
Sorry, it was cutting off. It wasn't me.
No worries. Yeah, I'm just So how important is setting clear boundaries for you with regards to when it came to this whole getting forgiveness?
Oh, it's very important. I mean, and setting clear boundaries in this instance, in regards to for, you know, my wife won't take responsibility or you know, forgive me. It's a two-sided, you know, she needs to own up her shit. I will own up to my shit. Because if you don't set that boundary, then you know, it goes back to reinforcing, you know, her narrative, where you're the bad guy and then you become the martyr. You become the victim. So, you know, it's okay to, you know, to take radical ownership, but not total responsibility.
Yeah,
You
well
know,
said.
yeah.
So they go in tandem, right? Radical self-ownership and clear boundaries. But without them, I think that actually is, if it boils down in this whole discussion, I'm talking about the dark side of where it can go with ownership and radical self-ownership is if you don't have clear boundaries. Yeah, really well said, Cowboy or Falcon. Cowboy, what about from your side, man?
Oh,
You've done a lot of work on that with setting clear boundaries in your marriage.
oh yeah.
What have been the benefits of that?
You know, going back a little bit and figuring out, like, categorizing, being able to categorize, is this her shit or my shit, and then setting that boundary has really, it's really forced, like, doing it the proper way. They gotta kind of tread lightly here because I don't want to send the wrong message, but it's really kind of forced my wife to step up and, you know, take her ownership. When you don't step down from those boundaries, when you have those boundaries, and you don't allow her to cross them, you don't allow them, or even anybody, but you don't allow her to cross those boundaries. Be like, no, that's not that has nothing to do with me. And almost every single time since I started doing this, she's later come back been like, I'm sorry about this, or like she'll come back and say, like, she'll own up for it before I even have to dive into a conversation, before I even
That's
have to open
wonderful.
up in a conversation. So it's really changed my relationship on a foundational level.
That's wonderful. And ultimately, that's what an unbreakable marriage is all about. Both, so people taking 100% accountability for their side of the marriage, right?
Yeah,
And
and all I
it's
did was start with me.
exactly, but it starts with you. Of course, somebody has to, and that's why the ARC system is full of leaders. It's about taking leadership, and when we do that, you're being a role model. And you know, when your wife sees you stepping up and taking radical ownership for your stuff, and then at the same time, no, that's not my stuff. Yeah, it's a wake-up call. And there's two ways it can go. Either your wife is going to love it and you're going to create that new unbreakable marriage. There's two ways it can go. Or she can spin on it, like as in go into a tailspin because she doesn't know how to deal with this new powerful version of yourself. And she might just shoot off, as in go in the other direction. And in both cases, as you guys already know, you should be okay with it because this is you standing in your power, right? And you guys all deserve to be in deeply loving, intimate relationships, and not in relationships where it's muddied water about who's responsible for what, blame and shame, and these kind of games going on. All you guys know that you just deserve better. Optimus, what about your side? So how important has it been for you setting those clear boundaries with regards to forgiveness?
It's more to do with regards of setting a boundary of how or giving her the steps on how she can approach situations or conversations within the relationship. Examples would be anything that was brought up. There was already emotions that were high in the beginning. And I know a huge part of the ARC system is working on your emotions first. So I had a lot of the calmness in the beginning, which I know probably triggered her because I was so calm in that situation. But it was nice for me to be able to set the boundary of, if we're going to have a conversation, there needs to be, no name calling, any of that kind of stuff. We need to sit down as two adults, having a normal conversation, put the problem in front of us and figure out a solution together where we're not blaming each other, but we're coming to that end goal. So the boundary is, that step of that whole process of how or what you can accept as a proper behavior for yourself.
Wonderful. Really good, guys. So now you understand what you can do when your wife refuses to forgive you. You want to watch this next video on the real reason why your wife is refusing to forgive you.